crafty friends, Einat Kessler here with Saturday Extravaganza, and today I'm creating an art journal page with watercolors. Now what I'm going to do is use a permanent waterproof black pen, which is not working. Let's take this one. Yes, it's permanent. And I'm just going to doodle and scribble and draw some stuff on my art journal page. I am not concerned with how pretty or beautiful my drawings are because I don't really think I can draw. I'm just basically doodling, creating shapes within shapes, and not particularly creating accurate, symmetrical, things. Because what I'm doing is creating the shapes that are going to be the base of my painting later with the watercolors. So I'm going to paint around the shapes, within the shapes, and these are just going to make some borders for me later on. So basically drawing with the black pen is not going to look too pretty. It's not going to look much. You just, take your pen and create lines and scribbles and flowers and circles and triangles and whatever kind of shapes that you want. They don't have to be pretty or something. The most important thing is to use a permanent pen, so later when you go in with your watercolors, it won't smear or smudge. So I'm just, look at all the shapes. The circles are not very, circly. They're not very accurate. Just have fun with your pen and doodle whatever you want. And if you don't even feel comfortable of doing that, just scribble, or take a ruler and create, checkered pattern or lines or things like that. But I think you can challenge yourself at least to draw some flowers and circles and things like that. They don't have to have special meaning. What I'm drawing here is going to be looking very, funky and weird, and it's not even going to have, maybe it's not going to even make sense. So you see, I'm just drawing circles in different sizes and scribbles like a 2-year-old and things like that. So it doesn't look much, right? But then you're going to take your water brush and your watercolor and you're going to start adding color in between all those shapes and in the shapes, because they're overlapping and creating different borders then in different areas within the page that you can draw. It's sort of like a little coloring page. But the fun thing is that you're going to go in with watercolors and do it and play with how bright or how transparent you want the color to be. So it's going to look really pretty at the end. So basically, working with watercolor, what you need is obviously watercolors and a water brush. I like it much better than just to use a brush with like a container of water, because the water are basically stored in the handle of the brush, and whenever you need more water, you just press the body of the water brush and little drips of water just come out. So that's really comfortable, at least for me. And you don't need a fancy watercolor palette or something, because basically you can mix and blend colors to create more hues and more shades and play around with that. This is my watercolor palette. I don't have another one, and it only has 12 colors. Some people have so many with tubes and stuff, and I just don't feel I need it. So as you can see, I am changing the colors as I move around the page, creating or coloring different areas. So I'm working on the background now in between the shapes that I created before. And as you can see, because I used the permanent black pen, you can see all the drawings that I did. Nothing is smearing or smudging or something like that. And watercolors are always sort of transparent, so even if I don't color exactly within the lines, which by the way, never stress about that, you can always see the shape anyway. So I'm starting to color within the shapes. I don't have a specific order of coloring all the page. I just pick a color and then apply to wherever I want to create the balance and the colorful feeling that I want. So if I have, for example, green, I might decide to paint on the corner and then go ahead and add a little bit more of that green to the flower and then add a little bit more on the bottom. So I'll have a few green points in areas on my page. So there's no order, I'm just going with the colors. So whatever color I have on my brush, I put it wherever I want on my page. And that's basically the order of things, that the way I do it. So as you can see, this is starting to get some character, some, some feeling of something. When you add paint to those scribbles, suddenly they look much nicer and much prettier than when they're just black lines on a white piece of paper. So before they looked kind of boring, but now the color gives them life and character and they look so much nicer. And the more details you drew in the beginning, the more areas you have to play with the colors, the more little areas you can switch colors and change little spots, add brighter colors or darker colors or whatever you want. So I'm just going ahead with adding and coloring the different areas on this art journal page. And it's very liberating, when you just, there's the trend right now of adult coloring books and things like that. And I never really managed to relate to that because it's very relaxing, I know, it's very therapeutic. But all those patterns there were too accurate and symmetrical, and I felt like I was in school again or in kindergarten. I had to paint in the lines and I couldn't, be creative and do whatever I want. But this pattern here is funky and crazy and not too straight, and I don't really care if I do paint in the lines. So this is, this works for me, but for you, if you don't like this non-committal sort of a pattern, that nothing is, symmetrical or accurate or the same size or shape, and every little circle is not exactly a circle. If this doesn't work for you, then you can use maybe stencils or download patterns from the internet and then use your watercolor to paint them in. But I really like to create my own pattern, as confused or as unorderly as it may seem to some. But I've told you lots of times before that art journaling is a very personal thing, so everybody should do what works for them and what they feel comfortable with. So as you can see, I'm adding more and more color to the different little parts of the pattern that I created, of that little drawing that looks like an alien environment of some sort with weird flowers and bubbles and whatever. And again, this is another fun thing that each person can see something different in this drawing. And again, you shouldn't be scared of watercolors. Some people say, what? It's, you should know. You should have a special brush and special paints, and you should know how to blend, and it's all, well, the B word. Don't want to say it, but it's nonsense. Just pick up a water brush or a wet brush and just start playing, and you don't need to learn anything that you can't really discover by yourselves. And just have fun, because it's so much fun working with watercolors. I really like it. And I like the effect that they make. It's sort of a transparent look to the color. It's not opaque like acrylic paint. So I really like this because I can still see the black lines of the pen. So again, I love this. I really recommend you trying. Just try. If it doesn't work, don't share it. You don't need to show it to, if you don't like it, or just have fun. That's the point. Just have fun. And I'm leaving a few of the areas on my page white, just as a contrast. And I know white is not a color on the color wheel, because white is the lack of any other color. But it's still nice to have a few white spots. It just makes the other colorful spots pop out more and be more visible. And also, don't worry about color coordination. Just, I'm trying to use as many colors as I can, because I want this to be very colorful and very, bright and happy. And you can use whatever colors that you want. You can use only blues or greens or whatever, if you don't want too many different colors on your page. But I like this colorful feeling that I get. I'm just going to dry this a little bit, and I'm just going to go in with some darker hues, just to create sort of a shadowy feeling. There's not really specific things you can shadow here, but you can still add some bold, darker colors for a more, striking page. You can see immediately when you add darker colors that everything pops out much more. So I like to do that. Basically, I'm doing this at the end, because once you add the darker colors, you can't add the brighter ones, right? So I'm leaving the darker ones to the end. And by the way, you can do this in stages. You can do a part of the spread of the art journal, and then if you're happy with that, then go ahead. You don't have to start with the whole spread like I did, if you feel it's too much for you. So I'm adding a little bit more, and I want to dry this because I want to go ahead with my black pen and add some more details and some more lines and little dots. And since it's a permanent pen, there's no problem of adding stuff on the watercolors after it's dry. So it can be underneath the watercolor, on top of the watercolor, it doesn't matter. As long as you use a permanent waterproof pen, you can just go in and add some more stuff later, like I did. So I'm just going to add a little more scribbles here and there. And I also want to add a little quote to my page, adding a few more lines here and there. And basically what I want to write is, the creative process is a process of surrender, not control. Isn't that a pretty quote? And it's so true, because if you think too much when you art journaling, then I don't think it will be a good art journal. The point is just to have fun, surrender, and let your imagination fly. So I'm just going to go over the letters a little bit. Make sure it's nice and bold and readable. And basically, I think my page is finished. I actually really like how it turned out, and it was very fun making it too. And I want to thank you very much for joining me and watching this video. And I want to encourage you to visit my website and check out the new Saturday Mixtravaganza VIP room, which is a members only exclusive club full of video tutorials, product reviews, guest designers, giveaways, and a lot of fun stuff. You can go to my website and find the link to register over there. Also, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't done so, or just visit my website anatKessler.com for much more tips and inspiration. Thank you very much for watching me, and I'll see you all next time.